This is not the time for my awakening. Something's gone terribly wrong. Oh no.
Lord Gaylord. The Sega CD was a troubled system. Hell, you could barely even call it a system. In order to play Sega CD games, you needed to have a Sega Genesis literally bolted onto it. Although, odds are if you had a Sega CD, you had a Genesis. I know I did. I got my Genesis for Christmas one year for just one game, Shining Force. But I later discovered that Sega CD had some immensely underrated and overlooked games. As a kid, I was addicted to RPGs. Japanese RPGs, Western RPGs, computer RPGs, all of it. The prospect of working to increase the strength of my characters was incredibly satisfying. Sonic and Mario would always be just as strong at the end of their games as they were at the start. But RPG heroes would have hundreds or thousands of HP, they'd deal more damage, they'd be equipped with stronger weapons. Feeling your characters get stronger over time was a great feeling. I would devour video game magazines every month. Being an idiot 12-year-old with a single mom, love you mom, to look after me, my ability to get my sticky mitts on games was usually relinquished to major holidays. To keep up on video game releases, I would get a weekly rental from the local video store, and I would stealthily scour video game magazines when my mom was out for groceries on Saturday mornings. I always adored RPGs, but JRPGs captivated me in ways that Western games did not. Not only did you have the incredible progression and battle systems of RPGs, but you also had amazing anime-style art as the face for the games. And poring over these game magazines and boxes at rental places was magic. These beautiful JRPGs, some localized and some not, really did call out to me. Final Fantasy III, Neutopia, Langrisser, Phantasy Star 4, so many worlds that needed to be saved, but I only had a Sega Genesis. But man, the Genesis had some great RPGs on it, didn't it? Phantasy Star 4, Shining Force 2, Warriors of the Eternal Sun, Landstalker, and Shadowrun were some of my favorites. When I first found out about the Sega CD, I was stoked. On board day one. It was one of the coolest things I had ever seen. To the eyes of a 12-year-old, the Sega CD was so cool, even though in hindsight, we all know what an absolute disaster it was. But, as a kid, I loved it. You could attach your Genesis to a new deck with a CD drive, and you'd have a new system. It was like a fucking transformer. And the games on it. So many RPGs. I remember seeing the art for Lunar 2, Eternal Blue, in a magazine. It was magnificent. Bright and colorful anime characters on a stark black page, a beautiful blue planet glowing in the background with a girl floating in space. Fuck yeah, video games. I consumed every ounce of information I could find on this game. Ads, blurbs, reviews, previews, art, everything. I'd snip these articles out of magazines and then add them to a binder where I could easily access them. This was the early 90s, before the internet became super prevalent. I only had magazines to go by, but let me tell you, I needed Lunar 2. And then, I got it. It was a Christmas gift from my mom, thanks Santa, and I was so excited to play it that I ended up waking up at like 4 AM Christmas morning. I knew no one would be up till at least 7, so I sat in my room, poring over the binder of Eternal Blue clippings, and I had never felt anticipation like this before in my life. And now that the nostalgia's over, let's talk about one of my favorite game series ever. This is Silver and Blue, the history of Lunar. Lunar is a series of role-playing games developed by Japanese studios Game Arts and Studio Alex that were initially released for the Sega CD. Over the years, the first two games, the Silver Star and Eternal Blue, have been ported or remade for a number of other consoles, including the PlayStation, PSP, and even mobile devices. These are two games that are considered to be the high points of the series, with Lunar Walking School and Lunar Dragon Song being largely ignored or outright hated. Lunar the Silver Star. Developed by Game Arts and Studio Alex in 1992 for the Japanese Mega CD, Lunar the Silver Star is a role-playing game and one of the Sega CD's best-selling titles. After high sales during its first year, the game was localized for North America by the nefarious Working Designs, more on them later. The game has since been remade and re-released for PS1 in 1996, GBA in 2002, PSP in 2009, and for mobile devices in 2012. Lunar was set to be a huge game right from the planning stages. The game planned to use the Mega CD's CD storage, enhanced graphics, and Redbook audio to create a focus on animation and storytelling. The game was set to boast beautiful animated sequences, spoken dialogue, and a huge soundtrack. And for a niche genre like RPGs, the game more than delivered. Lunar is a classic JRPG with 2D sprite characters and environments. You navigate a top-down world where you can explore towns and dungeons. Towns host NPCs you can talk to, shops to purchase new equipment from, and provide a safe haven from enemies. Dungeon exploration provides enemies to fight and treasure to be discovered. Battles are turn-based and involve party members and enemy units slugging it out. Physical attacks, magic spells, and consumable items all help the player to achieve victory. Conceived by novelist Kei Shigema, the story of Lunar the Silver Star revolves around a young man named Alex. Alex lives in the secluded rural town of Berg, where he spends his days chopping wood, playing his harp or ocarina depending on the version of the game you're playing, not kissing his not-girlfriend Luna, and not petting his not-cat Nall. Alex idolizes his hero, Dragon Master Dine, and spends time every day visiting his shrine just north of the small town. Needless to say, Alex will eventually need to pick up a sword and go out on an adventure because this is an RPG and this is what we do. The world is one of Tolkienist fantasy with dragons and other mythical creatures, swords and sorcery, a plot to take over the world, and all of the tropes you've come to expect. It's all pretty cliche, but the character and world building really makes this game and series shine. Lunar the Silver Star is a solid and entertaining game that, despite debuting on the Sega CD, has gone on to leave a legacy as a fondly remembered RPG. It is the highest-selling Mega CD game in Japan, and the second highest-selling Sega CD game in North America. The game has such a bold legacy that it has spawned a number of remakes throughout the years. Lunar Eternal Blue. Due to the immense popularity of the Silver Star, a sequel was planned almost immediately. Lunar Eternal Blue was developed by Game Arts and Studio Alex for the Sega CD and arrived in Japan in 1994 and North America in 1995. The game boasted graphical, musical, and voice acting upgrades, including an expanded story based 1,000 years in the future. While the game was not remade to death like Silver Star, Eternal Blue did receive a remake for Saturn and PlayStation 1 called Eternal Blue Complete. Development of Eternal Blue focused on making the sequel even more huge than the Silver Star. Where Silver Star has about 10 minutes of animation, Eternal Blue has almost an hour. Where Silver Star has 15 minutes of voice dialogue, Eternal Blue has over 90 minutes. Silver Star being the best-selling Sega CD game meant that Game Arts and Studio Alex really had to work to make the sequel that much more massive. Gameplay in Eternal Blue also got a huge upgrade. While the original feel of Silver Star remains, Eternal Blue expands on a lot of features from the original game. It's just that much tighter. You now gain magic points, different from magic points, that allow you to upgrade or learn new spells. The game also has one of the first programmable auto battles, which helps greatly if you are ever in the need to devote time to grinding. All these genre staples like leveling up, purchasing new equipment, and interacting with NPCs return. And the game just looks, sounds, and feels so much better than Silver Star. The backgrounds and sprites are absolutely gorgeous. With Kei Shigema returning to once again provide the plot, the story of Eternal Blue stars a mischievous but kind-hearted thief named Hiro. Hiro and his lifelong friend, the definitely not a cat, Ruby, enter an ancient shrine in hopes of discovering treasure, but instead they discover a magical girl. This magical girl, named Lucia, asks you to bring her to the goddess Althena, which is definitely going to take, 20 to 30 hours of gameplay, which will involve you finding a host of friends and foes along the way. The plot involves deception, magical battles, dragons, fighting your own past, and ancient evil, and lots of fan service dedicated to the first game. Eternal Blue takes place a millennium after the events of Silver Star, but the nods and connections between games is incredible. You'll encounter some of the same towns and cities, the characters from the first game are referenced as great heroes, and some characters actually reappear. It's great. I absolutely love it when games are connected like this. Eternal Blue is a great example of a sequel that actually succeeds in surpassing the original game, and with Silver Star being no slouch, you would be doing yourself a massive disservice by skipping Eternal Blue. This is probably a good time to talk about Working Designs. Working Designs was the company in charge of publishing Lunar and Lunar 2 in North America. The California-based company has a somewhat diabolical history. They were infamous for inserting pop culture references and silly humor into their localizations. Lunar, Lunar 2, Popful Mail, Vi, and many more games got the Working Designs treatment. They argued that adding their own silly humor into localizations was their own way to localize jokes, but detractors and purists often found jokes about Courtney Love and Bill Clinton to be kind of out of place. Whatever your thoughts on Working Designs, they brought a hell of a lot of great games to North America, and without them, we may never have seen some of these great titles. Lunar Walking School / Magic School. The third Lunar game was developed by Game Arts and Studio Alex for the Sega Game Gear in '96 as Walking School, and later in '97 for the Saturn as Magic School. Unfortunately, neither of these versions of the game made it outside of Japan, but die-hard fans rejoice as there is an English Game Gear patch, and they are currently working on an English Saturn patch. Gameplay-wise, Walking School is not much different from Silver Star and Eternal Blue, save for the fact that battles take place in an old-school dungeon crawler view. That's right, instead of a side-on view, battles take place in the first person. Being a huge fan of dungeon crawlers, I think that this is a really cool take on the formula, but I can definitely understand how purists might not like it. But then again, this is all due to the limitations of the Game Gear. This was swapped back to the side view for the Saturn release. Lunar Walking School, while being a follow-up to Silver Star and Eternal Blue, takes place hundreds of years before the first game. You take control of a young girl named Ellie on her quest to leave Berg, the same town that Alex lived in Silver Star, to join a magic school and become a mage. After arriving at the school, it looks like all of the teachers and students have vanished, Ellie then decides to recruit some additional characters and solve the mystery. I bet there will be some sort of demon involved! While seeming to be a lunar light, Walking School has a lot of the same earmarks that made Silver Star and Eternal Blue so magical and entertaining. Too bad we never got a proper release of either game, but at least the fan base is dedicated enough to create its own translations. Lunar Dragon Song. Oh boy, here we go. The fucking death knell, the sword that killed the unicorn, the end of Lunar. Lunar Dragon Song was created by Japan Art Media. That's right, no Game Arts, no Studio Alex. The game was dropped for the Nintendo DS in Japan in 2005. It was later ported in the same year to Europe by Rising Star Games and to North America by Ubisoft. What the hell? Where's the pedigree from the first 3 games? Gameplay in Dragon Song is dumb. You cannot target enemies. That's right, you cannot choose which enemies to attack. If you choose to attack the enemy, the game will choose the target and attack on its own. I have no idea who thought this was a good idea, but my guess is they've never touched an RPG in their life. Before going into battle, you choose one of 2 modes. Entering Virtue mode yields experience points, while Combat mode yields items. That's right, it's one or the other. You can't gain experience and items at the same time. Why? I mean, all this does is slow down the progression and make grinding something you need to do. There's also something about a card system. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've played about an hour to 90 minutes of this dumb game before getting rid of it. It's literally that bad. There are no cutscenes, no voiceovers, it's barely a cohesive game at all, let alone part of a great, long-running series. The game takes place 1,000 years before Silver Star, there's an evil dragon master, you are a delivery boy, even the plot is stunted and boring. Dragon Song is an embarrassment. Silver Star and Eternal Blue are massive and incredible games. Walking School was 10 times the game Dragon Song was, and that game was released a decade earlier on the Game Gear. It didn't have to be this way, but it was, and that was it. And that is Lunar. Kinda went on a side, didn't it? Not a bang, not a boom, not an explosion, just a whimper. But ignoring Dragon Song and ignoring Dragon Song killing the franchise, Lunar is great. Lunar the Silver Star and Lunar Eternal Blue are 2 massive and great role-playing games. Walking School isn't quite at the same standard as Silver Star and Eternal Blue, but it's still a solid entry, especially for the Game Gear. As I've made it abundantly clear, I have a huge nostalgia boner for this series, especially Eternal Blue. I have finished both the Sega CD and PlayStation versions of these first 2 games multiple times, and while writing this, I have thought constantly about a new playthrough of Eternal Blue. I'd be lying if I said that there was a future for the Lunar series. The series has been dead for years, save for the occasional remake of Silver Star. Part of me is sad that there won't be another proper follow-up to the first 2 games, but another part of me is so very happy that they exist at all. The fact a series that was built off the back of the Sega CD is testament to how amazing the Lunar series truly is. Hi everybody, it's your boy, Lord Gaylord. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I poured a lot of my nostalgia-soaked heart into it. If you haven't played the Lunar games, I highly recommend the first 2 games. Let me know what your thoughts are below. Maybe you love Dragon Song. If you do, please tell me why. Ahem. If you liked this video, please give it a like, share, subscribe, and ring-a-dang-dang that little bell. If you want to help us financially, Hit us up on patreon.com/LordGaylord and check out blackeneddeath.bandcamp.com if you want to buy a shirt or a bookmark or whatever. Anyway, that's it for now. We're going to see you next time. Goodbye.